Hey guys, we have a new multiplayer dungeon now called Elemental Forest, and here you can collect up items for the new pieces of gear, the artifact, which gives HP, and the other one is called the Halidum, and that gives MDef and PDef. And so definitely very useful. People are going to have a ton of HP in the future, which is a good thing. The reason why I think you get so many HP items lately, and then the advanced skills gives an HP passive and stuff, is HP becomes so important now because you have so much crap on the field. You have the kids, you have the pets, the sylphs, and sometimes troops, depending on which kind of dungeon or event you're doing. And so there's a lot of stuff that's hitting you, a lot of things you don't have control over. Sylph attacks, the resistance has come into play a lot, but defense doesn't. So having a lot of HP is really, really important because you're going to be taking just an enormous amount of damage. So I think that's why these items are creeping up more and more. I looked at the kids and they have several HP items as well. And so yeah, so far the MP is a little bit annoying for some players. I don't actually mind it too much. I think the person who's conceptualized the first boss is a little bit sadistic, but it is sort of interesting. On normal, it's pretty manageable if you have a group that I think, well, these days it's maybe around 600 or so KBR. So like a 400 KBR player without their U-Demon, then I think that you can manage it just fine. It might be better if you have somebody higher BR to help support, tank and things like that, but it's not that crazy. So this first boss is actually two bosses. They're water elemental, and the one in front is immune to magic, so you can only deal damage to it with physical attacks. And the one in the back is physical immune, so you can only attack it with magical attacks. And the key to this is being able to kill them both around the same time, within about a turn or two of each other. Preferably, at the same time, but if not, within one turn of each other. We have cut it a little bit closer than that before, but that's the general rule of thumb. And so how you want to do it is you want to kind of balance out your players. So here the Tapper has a light sylph, so he's dealing magical, and I had my physical sylph, a dark pet, to help deal some physical damage. Ember also has a physical pet, so she's still dealing physical. And because I deal the most damage in this group, the one in the front that takes physical damage started to go down pretty quickly, so I got out of sylph mode and started using my magical attacks as a mage. So it's a little bit difficult if you have, I've done one of these runs with 4 mages before, and so you have to be very conscious of what sylphs you're using. You do need a balance. You can't go in with, 4 physical attack players. Well, you don't want to do this without a mage, but anyway, say you go in with 4 mages, you cannot go in with all magical pets, or else you will be in big trouble. So here, the one in the back is now dying a little bit faster, so I got into my sylph and do some physical damage, and now we're getting very close, but I think we managed just fine. And one Delphic will do it, and then Tapper and Ember. Oh no, Ember is physical right now, but whatever it is, we managed just fine. And so yeah, it's not one of those things where you can just sylph immediately without coordinating. You can't go in with a dummy of a team and think that you're going to pass that. I think there's one exception I'll talk about later. I run Nightmare with Robin and Midori later, and they were telling me that they managed to beat it by accident, but for the most part, you're not going to accidentally beat that one. You have to be very conscious of how quickly you're beating those bosses. The first time we went in with no knowledge, and we were sitting there for quite a while. We finally figured out how it worked very quickly, but even so, it took a little while for us to figure out. But now it's actually pretty straightforward. Have some mobs here. We have like the little crypts. I'm not dying to do another MP. I'm not a huge fan of multiplayer dungeons. I'm sure I'm going to be tired of this one eventually. But, I cringe every time I go to run Nirvana or something like that, because you just end up doing it hundreds upon hundreds of times. Usually I'm always like part of the first group of people who can do things on Nightmare in my server, so so you end up running it a lot, and so I'm happy to help people, and I really want like all my guildies and my friends to get all their stuff, but it is a lot, and so I'm not super thrilled that I'm grinding out another item. At the same time, I'm really happy that I get something that I can put more gems into. So, it's this balance of like, oh, I want more BR, and I want more places to put all my gems, but I don't really want to grind this out. So, you just put up with it. The earlier ones don't seem that hard to get, the really basic ones. But later on, the fancier stuff in the legendary bar, it gets pretty tough. And so this last boss, so far I have seen Wind, Fire, and Electro, so it's a rotating boss. I'm setting myself up right now to basically solo it, because in case it's a fire boss, I just end up killing everybody, and that's pretty much what happens every single time. And so in this case, we did get the fire boss, and what the fire boss does is he is Cerberus, and he'll chaos you very, very frequently. And it usually only goes to the players. It doesn't go to the kids much. It seems like chaos type stuff always prioritizes the players. So I think unless a kid somehow manages to be the only one living, which these days is not going to happen for a while, you get chaosed a whole bunch. So here I think Ember's chaosed, and maybe Tapper is as well. So I'm not chaosed yet, but there it is, and so I'm going to kill somebody, I'm sure. That one didn't hit. Oh, I get a Guardian rune out. That's one way to solve it is... Oh, no, chaos again, see? But you can use very neutral runes, like heal runes and Guardians. I just killed my whole team. And be able to get rid of the chaos. This is very straightforward for me on normal, is I basically just kill everybody and then beat the boss. On Nightmare, it's a little bit different. I could use some help with the DPS, and so we really try and just make sure that the whole team deals as much damage as possible. Sylph's off the bat does a ton of damage, and then eventually they all die, and I finish it up. That's usually how it goes. If I go with Robin, who you'll see in the next part of the video when we do it on Nightmare, we don't get the fire boss, but Robin's also very, very strong, and so can, as long as her resistance is good enough, she can hold up to me alright, and so she doesn't die. But pretty much everybody else does. So, so yeah, it's not the most beautiful way to run an MP. You generally want everybody living at the end, but at least when they run with me, this is usually how it goes. That doesn't mean that you can't beat this with a more reasonable BR team. There are ways to deal with it, people being really conscious of their runes and when they have a chaos and things like that. Definitely what you want to be careful of is not to use a Centauria there unless you're very confident that you're not going to be getting a chaos. So usually like the first turn you can do a Centauria and it's fine, but if you give that boss Centauria, it's going to build up back to full health very quickly. So that's not so fun. So here we're on Nightmare mode. I think we have Robin with us, the Tapper again, and Midori as well. And Robin and Midori are a couple, so I think they'll revive if they get killed once. But I don't think that happens here. We end up getting the Wind boss at the end, which is I find probably the easiest of the bosses. At least that I've seen. I've seen Electro, which builds up a damage buff, so you have to be able to scatter that. And then the worst one is the Fire, where you get chaosed a lot. And then Wind is you get stunned and you get amnesia at 5 turns, which is kind of mean as well. The kids seem to have passives that you can have amnesia resistance, so that might help eventually, but none of the U-Demon skills are high enough these days yet to be able to do that. I have an Archer U-Demon. I haven't named it or anything. I'm actually being very timid about that. I'm thinking, I'm pretty much decided that I'm going to wait to build up a U-Demon until I get a mage. So I'm going to I think I need 1 or 2 more of those shards for the U-Demon, and then I can get a mage. And I'll explain in a video later why I've made that decision, but I do make it for some pretty specific reasons. So for now, level 1 U-Demon, I do have a bunch of stuff. You know, I cast some of the items in the recent spenders and whatever, and so I have a bunch of stuff that I could build one up. So I have some gems into the gear and whatever, but I don't have anything else in there. No blood Azus or anything like that. So here, this is pretty straightforward with Robin. Robin takes a physical pet, I take a magical pet, and Robin's an archer, so she's dealing a ton of damage, so we go at a very similar pace, and so it's pretty straightforward. We both just sylph off the bat, and then once we're done, Midori and Tapper go, and Tapper has his light pet on, and Midori has a physical pet, Cerberus, and so, yeah, doesn't go too bad. Midori might be dying the fastest here. I think she has more BR than Tapper, but since she has that fire pet, maybe her water resistance is not so great. So yeah, having a good balance, you know, whoever's your 2 strongest people, you know, for me, if I'm going with a much weaker team than myself, then, you know, maybe like the amount of damage I deal is equal to like 2 or 3 of them, so you just need to figure that out. We get a little bit behind on magical, but Tapper does have that Delphic coming, and I've got my light pet as well, so we manage. There we go. A little bit close, but not too bad. And then we can see some drops, all different items to get the Halidom and the artifact. Some of those you need just to synthesize either of them, and then there's like one for each of them that are specific to Halidom and specific to artifact. And so depending a little bit on your luck at the end draw, depends on how quickly you can do each of them. Like for me, I'm pretty sure I have more for the Halidom than I do for the artifact. So, you know, Sylvie. Actually, yeah, I was saying that I want the Halidom first, so I guess that's a good thing. I am going to pretty soon be doing just like a marathon of these. You know, on the weekends I can probably convince my friends to do a bunch of these and use all those Empire Crusades to do a bunch of attempts and punch this out and be able to get one or two of the items pretty quickly. But after that, once you talk about the fancier items, it takes quite a while. So there's the very basic one. It has 3 spots for a socket, so like the most basic Halidom you can put 3 gems into, same for the artifact, and it can be enchanted up to 8 plus 18, so it's still pretty nice. And after that, it takes a bit longer, and I'm pretty sure you can open up 4 sockets or something like that. And the one, in order to Holy Forge it, I think you need to be able to get the very last one, which is really hard to grind out, so not going to be getting that for a while. Victory. The part here that I don't really like is that crypt, because everybody clicks it, and I kind of just want to skip over it because it's just EXP or Daru. But for some reason, even myself, I bother to click it, and it just adds time into the multiplayer dungeon, and so I'm like, let's just go. But I can't blame people for wanting to get it, I guess. So here, I mean, my friends and I just cross our fingers that we don't get the fire one, just because even though it's not impossible, you know, once we have it kind of figured out, it's been a lot easier when we get it, but it's just so much more of a pain, and usually we have to do something to adjust, whereas the electro and the wind ones we can often beat on the first try, and it's no problem. You know, I can't figure out how to visually tell which boss you're going to get at the end, so I usually just stack electro, wind, and fire, because we haven't seen any of the other bosses. I heard that there's one for each element, but I haven't seen them. So I think it's, you know, first boss is water, so then the other 3 non-light dark elements are at the end. But I haven't seen. I heard there was light and dark, but I haven't seen anything like that. But yeah, I mean, if you do this on Nightmare and you're not, you know, my BR, and even at my BR, the Nightmare boss can screw me up pretty badly. you have to have resistances for this, and definitely at more modest BRs for even on normal, you're going to want resistance at the end because these bosses are quite mean without it. You know, defense really doesn't cut it. You have to have resistances. If you have really weak resistances against the boss, it hurts. You can get one shot really easily. Most of the mobs drop just the little refinement, the green things. Those are refinement items for the Halidom and the artifact. So these new pieces of gear really have their own separate set of items. That's of course to draw more cash out of people so that they can't use whatever they've hoarded up until this point on the Halidom and the artifact. I think it still enchants with gold though. So here we have Medusa. It's the wind boss. She's kind of mean in her own right, but not nearly as bad. You know, she'll AoE and she'll stun, and that's kind of mean. It's, you know, until I build up my influence more, which is a new stat, I'm gonna get stunned for 2 turns from that. And what else? And then she also does an amnesia for five skills for, I think, 5 turns or something like that. The easiest way to get out of an amnesia, or to deal with it the best, is to either, if you're in class mode and you get the amnesia, to just go into Sylph mode if you have it up. And then if you're in Sylph mode, just get out of Sylph mode. So here, she gets the amnesia on me when I'm in class mode, and I just Sylph, and so I have, you know, a full set of 5 skills to attack her with, and it's not so bad. Lately for this final boss, I've been bringing Cerberus because, you know, it's electro, wind, or fire. So fire, I have a little extra resistance, and it's also like a DPS, you know, a lot of big attacks. So it's a nice Sylph for that. Wind also have quite a bit of resistance, so that's been good. And then against Electro, kind of just like whatever, it doesn't really matter what I bring, I have a ton of resistance against Electro. So yeah, there's actually a purpose to Cerberus in PvE stuff. I never thought it, I mean, it's not like you couldn't just use Turk or something like that, but it's been good. Use the puppy. Midori's main pet is Cerberus, like that's the one that she's built up, so that's how you end up seeing 2 Cerberuses in an MP. Well, that's about it. It's really not too bad as long as you have the resistances and the coordination and everything. So, you know, I drew some more of these refinement things, which is really the worst one that you can get right now because you just want to make the item. But that said, you know, if you have any questions about, you know, what you need or whatever, I've done the MP a few times now, so I know the general gist of it. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care and have a very good day.